Hi, everybody. My name is Sharice Bennett, or Red Bennett, and this is my older adult presentation, if I can get started. I wanted to throw in the interview profile. I had an opportunity to interview my great aunt, my grandfather's sister, my Aunt Ruby, and here's just a synopsis of who she is. She's 78. She still lives in New Bern, where she was born. She has two children, and she is number 6 out of 8. She's also the first girl and the oldest girl. Her and her two sisters, my Aunt Laura and Aunt Vaughn, are the three surviving children out of all of my grandfather's brothers and sisters. And I consider her one of my favorite aunts. So I really enjoyed taking the time to interview her to learn more about her life, which is an extension of my history. I started the interview by asking her to tell me one of her earliest childhood memories and just going from there. And she spent a lot of time on her childhood. That was the focus for me. So I focused on the Erickson stage 5, identity versus identity confusion. Although the stories that were most prominent in her retelling of her life story was when she was around age 9. The behavior and the responsibility were more appropriate for identity versus identity confusion. So, in this stage, Erickson explains adolescents are developing their own sense of who they are or their self identity. And during their exploration, they're trying out different roles for the things or mimicking the roles of the peers and adults around them to see basically what sticks. And this stage occurs between 13 and 21. Her experiences included managing the household. She was a caretaker and of the house for everything, cooking, the cleaning, taking care of her two smaller sisters, being a maternal figure for all of her siblings while her parents were at work. Her older brother, one of her older brothers, who was still at home, maintained everything on the outside of the house, like the crops and things like that, and she maintained the inside. And she was specific to say, or it was important for her to let me know that when she was done with her chore, she would go help him, and when he was done with his, he would help her. The challenges that I identified was that she had just a lot of responsibility, being the oldest girl. A lot of the maternal things or the housekeeping things or traditional feminine roles in a household were up to her while her parents were at work, or if her mother was gone. And even if her mother was there, she had to still play that supporting role and helping her mother and doing all of the other tasks and chores that her mother would typically take care of. And so her maturation into these responsibilities was sped up, because everyone had to pitch in, basically. And so she didn't spend a lot of time just playing, or just, running in the yard or spending time with friends, because she had responsibilities in order to maintain the household. And of course, as a Black child in the South, she still experienced oppression and racism and other barriers, when she tried to navigate anything outside of her small community in Rocky Run, North Carolina. And from my perspective, a lot of that childhood innocence was lost, even though she still remained like innocent and sweet and not fast, as she, using her words. Her father thought she would be fast if he allowed her to sing like she wanted to, like her older brothers did. But that wasn't what she was concerned with. She just wanted to share what she called her gift from God with other people in order to bless them. And according to her age, she should be in stage 4, industry versus inferiority, where she is just playing and learning, gaining experience and skill through playing with things. But again, her childhood seemed to be very truncated. The psychosocial crisis within this stage includes being confused about who you are and how you fit into the larger scheme of things, as well as how you fit into your family, into your immediate social circle. Excuse me. And if they model the behavior around them and they are encouraged or accepted or given positive reinforcement or reinforcement period, then they continue that behavior if they feel comfortable with it. And if they mimic the behavior or don't mimic the behavior and are somehow ostracized or isolated, then that causes some kind of confusion. Where do I fit in here if they don't like what I'm doing? Which, of course, can lead to rebellion. For the psychosocial tenets that facilitated the resolution of the identity versus identity confusion, I picked up on her having a large family. She had 7 siblings in a small community. And then religion was a constant theme throughout her telling the story, is that God placed her here. God provided for her. And as long as she was a good Christian child and a good Christian woman, then God would provide everything that she needed. God, it was her voice, and she's a wonderful singer, by the way. Her voice was God's gift, and she was supposed to use that, or does use that, to bless other people. So those things, the rural community where everyone knows everyone, everyone takes care of everyone else as they need, and her having a large family to reinforce and validate her behavior as she was coming up is one of the things that helped facilitate the resolution of her crisis. Inhibition of the resolution and other problematic scenarios that I picked up on were potentially gender stereotypes, religion again, and being in a lower socioeconomic status. Although the stereotypes reinforced her behavior, if there were ever a time where she did not want to um, conform, then because the stereotypes were held so tightly, she would have a problem. Religion also seems to reinforce the stereotypical feminine and masculine roles, whereas the God, of course, is above everything, and then the husband of the household takes care of. He's the provider, so he brings home the bacon, and the wife or the woman in the household takes care of the children and is the homemaker. And if there's ever a deviation, then something is wrong. And also being from a lower socioeconomic status or in a community that is in a low SES, the ability to relax, the ability to take vacations, to kind of take a step back and create space when you need it, almost doesn't exist. The responsibility and the pace for how you have to perform and how you have to fill in the blanks and cover down for someone else who may be sick, how you have to take care of others, being able to like hire a maid to come in and clean the house so when you come home from work or from school the house is clean, doesn't exist. Hiring a chef doesn't exist, because those are benefits that are afforded to the more affluent. But listening to her story, it doesn't seem like there was any inhibition from her perspective, because she did everything that she wanted to do, especially at that time. She didn't really regret or seem to have missed out on playing with friends or anything like that. She was really grateful to be able to help out at home. The multi-system influences include her family, church, the community, her neighborhood, larger institutions, school, grade school. All of these things converge to support her development into the roles that she desired based off what was around her, what was available to her. and what she was taught were appropriate for her. So being a wife, being a mother, being a caretaker, being a homemaker, these are all things that were ingrained in her around the time she, 6 to 9, when she started to actually do those things. Of course, not the wife and the mother part, but being a caretaker for her siblings, even her older brothers. She always had that maternal leadership quality, being the first girl, being a homemaker, being able to follow her like mother's and her grandmother's recipes to make dinner for such a large family. Those things that started in her childhood. And there are things that she is very proud of today. And again, if she wanted to deviate from any of those roles, she would not have the community support or the familial support in order to do that. The additional theory that I chose was Gilligan's theory of moral development, primarily because it is female focused, while Erikson is usually is about autonomy and independence. The moral development focusing on female um, development is more about sacrificing and being able to help others, right? Um, I thought it was more appropriate. And also because the framework frames women in the same way religion does. And so they have to be the caretakers, they have to be morally responsible, they also have to be very patient. If their partner or their spouse or their husband is not morally um, responsible or very morally developed, they have to be the ones who pray for their husbands. They have to be the ones who are patient, that take care of him and clean him up and take him back. Um, or they have to wait until he gets his stuff together, basically. Like their ethereal is is the term that comes to mind. And those expectations, of course, are entrenched in American society. Females have a role and a place, and males also have their role and their place, and the two are complementary to one another. Um, and in Black families, from my experience and from listening to my aunt, um, that any deviation from that, if you're not going to be a wife, if you're not going to be a mother, you have to explain it, and the matriarch or patriarch of your family has to approve of it in order for you to still be fully accepted. Otherwise, you may be accepted lovingly, but not so much wholly. Like you still will be questioned until you have either conformed or changed your mind. It was clear that my aunt, Miss Ruby Darden, she got a lot of joy out of taking care of her family and of taking care of herself, but really for being there for her family and being able to support them in the things that they wanted to do, to support them even as, throughout her lifespan. It was really important for her to do that, to play that role and to be recognized as the caretaker and caregiver that she was. And again, her resolution as a mother and wife and caretaker was justified, by religion, excuse me, which is conflated oftentimes with religion. I'm sorry, with morality. The limitations of the theory um, include they're male centric. I'm sorry, that's not on the slide. They're very male centric and male dominated, with the autonomous piece and the independence, where females are not groomed in our societal construct to do that. The age ranges that are described or used to describe the stages are also not accurate, because they don't take into account the responsibility that comes to children from lower SES or different cultural or racial backgrounds. Those responsibilities are often greater at a younger age because everyone has to pitch into the family. So the parental and societal influences are also not taken into account for the theories, for Erikson's theory. And these are my references. That will conclude my video. Hopefully, I got everything. And I hope you guys enjoy. You have a good evening.